This is Robb Wolf, and you're listening to Airey Bros Radio.
So you mentioned when you were living in Texas that was kind of the best your health was. How important do you think the environment is for one's overall health? And what are the trade-offs? Because you mentioned the kind of being gnarly as far as having to check the house for scorpions and the jiggers and everything. So what is that trade-off, and how much consideration should people put into their outer environment?
Man, for me, I think it's that photo period piece. And although I don't, it's really funny. If you guys know Jack Cruz, like he's quite a character, and but I really think he's about 98% accurate with like the photo period stuff being primary to even food. One of the interesting things and the differences between he and I actually work with a lot of like living, breathing people. And if you have a police officer, first responder, medical professional, or a new parent who maybe lives in a northern climate, it's like, yeah, man, they don't live in El Salvador. They can't just go out their back door and just get all the sun. And so you try to do some things like maybe a spurty vitamin D lamp and try to shore that stuff up as best you can. And then also there's kind of a reality for a lot of people, even though maybe light and photo period is the primary driver, like it's really where the rubber hits the road. But the thing that you've got the most control over may end up being your food. And so that may be the levers that you can, one can control the most or the easiest or what have you. But I do think that environment, and when I'm thinking environment, mainly I'm thinking about kind of photo period, although I think about like my eldest daughter, she really doesn't like loud noises. She doesn't like big cities. Like I think she's going to be a country girl when it gets right down to it. The younger one may end up being in some raves and some stuff like that at some point. She really likes music and can get into like loud music and stuff. So I think you have to find an environment that just kind of makes your soul happy. For a lot of people, that's either mountain or ocean, or I know it's interesting for me. Like I tend to live rurally, but we've been to Italy a lot, and some places like Florence, Firenze, and then some different kind of urban areas, but they're urban designed in a smart way where you could live and work in the area. You don't need a car. You can walk everywhere. I love that environment. Like it's just really vibrant and lots of stuff going on. If I'm in a spot where I can just pop out the door and go get coffee and get some food and see some people and hang out, I really enjoy that. So I think that like that broadly environment piece is going to be incredibly individually driven, like what, whether you're more introverted or extroverted, whether you need more people interaction. But I do think that by and large, like more sun, more light exposure seems to be only good for folks, absent just giving yourself a gnarly sunburn every day. Like just pushing right up to the boundary of that, I think is one of the most powerful health levers that we can use. I think it dials in our appetite. It really fights depression and anxiety. It improves our sleep on the back end of the day. Like people who tend to work outside all day, even if they have bright lights on in the evening, we're told to wear like blue blockers and stuff like that. The individual that works outside all day, like they're pretty immune to that. Like they have a normal bedtime, even if they watch some TV or they're on their device or something like that, it doesn't seem to derail them the same way as someone who works indoors all day and they're not really getting that intense outside light during the appropriate part of the day. So I know that bounced around a lot, but I guess again, to recap, I think that there are going to be like a lot of different kind of nuanced characteristics of one's environment that will make you a better fit for a particular area. And then that photo period is and light exposure, I think, is just one of these things that's really difficult to improve upon. Like I use a spurty vitamin D lamp, even though we're in Bozeman, and Bozeman has a pretty sunny environment, but sometimes it's overcast. Sometimes it's just cold, like even though it's sunny outside, like it's, minus 12 degrees or something like that, or even 12 degrees. And so I'll use that spurty vitamin D lamp, and it helps, but it's not it's not sunlight. Like, it's not being outside in the sun. And so it's a stopgap, but it's not the same. If and so again, since I'm just rambling like an idiot, I'll throw this thing out there. If I really had my preferences, for me personally, I would be living at the water in like Nicaragua or El Salvador or Mexico or something like that. Like coconuts, spearfishing, that would be my jam. But I'm raising 2 daughters, and I want them to have a relationship with their grandparents and their cousins and all that type of stuff. And it would be pretty impossible to pull that off. Like, they might see these people like once a year. And so I try to save my nickels and dimes and get to the water as frequently as I can during the year otherwise. But, this is the compromise that I make, is to be able to raise my kids in a really stable, good environment, which I think is rural Montana, even though my health would probably be much better served being somewhere equatorial or, at least tropical.
We are right there with you. We join you at that kind of tropical environment, and kind of to your point, I love getting out there, sunrise, sunset, but sometimes life happens and it's hard to always get those every day. And if you make that main priority, that tends to be all you have in your life, and there's other things that you kind of have to do.